Alrighty, guys. So, like I said, this is going to be video number two, covering the notes for at least the beginning of this week, and for your homework that will be due tomorrow on Monday. Okay. So, um, obviously, we know we're on Unit 4, Chapter 10. Just fast forwarding a little bit through everything that we've covered so far. So we covered carbs, and for the most part, you guys did pretty good with your poplets. We'll be hitting on that here in a little bit on the next video. But for the most part, you guys did pretty good. Now, I just want to reiterate once again, um, when we get back, you guys will be able to use your poplet on the test. Okay, so um, you know, for people who are barely putting any effort into this thing, it's only going to hurt you in the long run on the test. Okay, so once again, the more effort you put on this, the more you put in your poplet, the better these are going to be. Okay, um, so today we are going to cover proteins and fats. Okay, and that'll be what is covered on the homework for tonight, or that'll be due tomorrow. Okay. So let's just hop right into it. So proteins. I'm sure we've all heard of proteins. A few of you guys have done your current events on, the importance of protein, or do we need more protein? So we have at least, an introduction into it. But now we're going to look at it a little bit more in depth. Okay. So proteins, the nutrients the body uses to build and maintain cells and tissues. So we use protein to build and maintain cells and tissues. Okay. They are responsible for repairing any kind of damage to the body. All right. So for the athletes out there, a lot of the times after a workout, sometimes after a practice, what do? You drink a protein shake, right? That is to promote healing, repairing of the body. Okay, that's the reason why we do that. So we either eat protein dense foods or we drink a protein shake to try and boost our body into repairing itself faster. Okay, make the recovery time shorter, therefore making us 100% quicker. Okay. Um, so proteins are made up of these chemicals we call amino acids. Okay. Of these amino acids, we have essential and non-essential amino acids. Okay. So there are 20 total. Okay, 20 total amino acids. 9 of these are what we call essential amino acids, and 11 are what we call non-essential amino acids. Okay. So I want to talk about this for a second here. Okay. Um, so if something is essential, we need it, right? So things that are essential to us: food, water, air, right? So if it is essential, we need it. So this 9 essential amino acids means that we have to go out and find them somewhere in our diet. Okay. So the nine essential amino acids we have to consume through our diet to get them into our body. All right. The 11 non-essential, so if we know the word essential, meaning important, meaning needed, 11 non-essential means it's not important, not needed. Our body already synthesizes these proteins, these amino acids from what we already consume. Okay, so the nine essential, we have to go find out in our diet somewhere. We have to consume them. And the 11 non-essential, we already synthesize in our body uh, through different processes. Okay, um, not important. We don't have to get into that. Okay. Any food that has all nine, so has all 9 of the essential amino acids, is what we call a complete protein. So we eat this food, and it has all 9 of our essential amino acids. Okay. Um, One thing that people get mixed up a lot is thinking of protein, such as meats. Okay. One thing that is interesting is that all can be consumed with a plant-based diet. So all of our amino acids can be consumed with a plant-based diet. These would be things such as grains, nuts, seeds, and legumes. Okay. Now, yes, you're gonna have to eat a lot more of those to get to the levels that a meat-based protein would provide. Um, but it's not completely out of the question. So for the vegetarians, a plant-based diet can provide enough amino acids, enough proteins for your diet. Okay. Now, obviously, your goals play a big role in that. So there are bodybuilders, there are professional athletes who are vegetarian and still consume enough protein to make them successful. But everyone is different, as we've talked about numerous times. So obviously talking to your doctor, talking to a nutritionist would be the best way to find out if your body can run on a plant-based diet. Um, if you're going to get your proteins and get all your other nutrients that are essential for you to stay healthy and repair your body and grow. Okay, so that is the proteins information, at least slide one. Okay, proteins continued. So these are the basic building material of all your body cells. Okay, so in addition to building and maintaining, okay, it also helps repair, as I said. Okay, so proteins help build, help strengthen your muscles, um, help strengthen the cells, and then as well as repairing them. Okay, so what we're talking about when we repair our muscles is, I feel like we've talked about this a little bit before. Let's bring up an example here. So oops, that's not correct spelling, but oh well. So what we have here is the bicep, okay? The bicep and the tricep. I'll blow it up a little bit. And what happens is when we lift or work out, or maybe it's just even in competition, what happens is we get small little tears in these muscle fibers. Okay, so there's a bunch of different little fibers here in this one muscle bundle. Okay, so what happens is during activity, or especially intense activity like competition, some of these fibers either tear or they get slight little what we call micro tears. Okay, and it's the protein's responsibility to go in and not only to repair these tears but to strengthen them to try and hope that it doesn't happen again. So that's why protein post workouts are so important, because what are you doing when you're working out? You're trying to grow the muscle, you're trying to strengthen the muscle, right? So getting a source of protein after that to start repairing and strengthening those muscles and tendons sooner is obviously a big pro. Okay, so talking about repairing, proteins repairing the muscles and the tendons and muscle fibers is really what's the purpose there. Okay. Excuse me. Um, so proteins can be used as an energy source if needed. So like we talked about in our last presentation, carbs is what we get most of our energy from, but proteins can be used as an energy source if needed. Boys, so these are teenagers, boys are recommended 52 grams of protein per day, and girls are recommended of 46 grams per day. Okay. And then 10 to 15% of your daily calories represent proteins. Okay, so we had our carbs, which represented 45 to 65%, right? So 45 to 65% of our daily calories from carbs. Proteins represent 10 to 15% of your daily calories. Okay, so just by going through these two food bases already, you can start to see, what your diet could potentially revolve around. Once again, depending on your goals, but saying that 45 to 65% are carbs and 10 to 15% are proteins. Okay, and once again, some examples over here: eggs, obviously any kind of meat, or at least most meats, almonds, oats, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, milk, broccoli, etc., etc. Okay, and then in addition, the grains, nuts, seeds, legumes we have down here. All right, so those are our proteins, and we'll talk about the poplet here in the next video. All right, so those are the proteins. Moving on to fats. So these are fats, aka lipids. I would make sure you have that in there somewhere. Excuse me. Um, so obviously, when people talk about fats right away, you think of bad, right? You don't want a lot of fat, whether it's in your diet or in your body. That's right away the immediate thought. Okay. But the thing is that we do need certain fats. Okay, some fats are essential to our diet. Okay, and these ones that are essential are comprised of fatty acids, something we call fatty acids, aka essential fatty acids. Once again, essential meaning important. So comprised of fatty acids. All right. There are three different types of fats. Okay, and we're going to go through all three. And once again, seeing how these three should be in our poplet somewhere. Okay. So we have, first off, unsaturated fats. Okay. So these can lower heart disease risk in moderate amounts. So around unsaturated fats, maybe it's in parentheses, just like the lipid is here. But for unsaturated fats, I would put somewhere that these are our good fats. Okay, so the fats that we want in our body, because it can lower heart disease risk in moderate amounts. Okay, so unsaturated fats, good fats. Examples of that are vegetable oils, nuts, and seeds. Um, the second type is saturated fats. So these are found mostly in animal products, but some plants as well. Okay, these are just our okay average fats. Okay, so here it says, in moderate amounts, it can lower heart disease, and those are unsaturated, and we call those good. So saturated are just okay, not super good for us, not super bad for us, but there are some pros to it. So saturated fats increases the level of cholesterol. Okay, so there's two types of cholesterol: low density lipoprotein and high density lipoprotein. So they call those LDL for low density and HDL. Okay, um, if you guys ever get your cholesterol tested, what they do is they prick your finger and take a little small blood sample, and it really doesn't take that long at all. Within 10 or 15 minutes, you can get a good reading. But you are looking for a good number for your high density lipoprotein. So that is the good type of cholesterol. Now let's look at a chart here to get an understanding. Now you guys will not be responsible for this. You guys won't be responsible for this on the test. I just want you to be aware of it in case you see this somewhere down the road. Okay. So a lot of times you'll get these types of tests in what they call biometric screening, where they will do your height, they'll do your weight, your body mass index, they'll do your blood pressure, things like that. Okay. So you'll see HDL and LDL in that as well. Now we can see here the total cholesterol level, and they have these broken down into categories. So desirable is 200 milligrams per deciliter. That is desirable. Okay, anything higher than that is going to be dangerous. So our LDL, our bad cholesterol, once again, you want less than 100. Okay, so the least amount of that, the smaller the amount of that, the better. Now our HDL, the good cholesterol, same idea. We want those, uh, you know, no, sorry, this is other. So we want these higher. So our HDL is good, so that's why we want it higher. So that is going to be 60, where our LDL is bad, so we want less than 100. Okay. Like I said, you guys will not be responsible for that. I just want to show you guys some things that are out there. Okay. But you will have to know that HDL is good, so high density lipoprotein is good, and LDL lipoprotein is bad. Okay. So too many of these saturated fats can increase the risk of heart disease. So that's where you're going to get that LDL playing a role. These are found in meat, dairy, palm oil, and coconut oil. Okay. Our last one here is called trans fats. So these are our very bad fats. Okay. These are the things that we do not want in our diet. These are going to be the foods that taste the best, honestly. So, your snack foods, your packaged baked goods, so any kind of chips, any kind of little Debbie's, sweets, baked goods, cookies, cakes, all that kind of stuff is going to be what our trans fats are. So, we want to limit these as much as possible. Okay. Why is that? Because they raise blood cholesterol and they raise the risk of heart disease. And they are formed via something called hydrogenation, which is the bottom of that, the very last slide there. I'm not sure if this is showing up on your guys' screen or not, but it's formed via hydrogenation. So once again, you will not have to know what that is. Okay, hydrogenation right there. You won't have to know what that is, just what the word is. Okay, so trans fats are formed via hydrogenation. Now let's look at that once again, just looking at things that you guys might be exposed to later. So I don't want to just leave you in the dark. Okay. So food companies began using hydrogenated oil to help increase shelf life and save costs. So what they did was they used hydrogenation to make foods last longer, so they can sell them longer. They will stay fresh or somewhat fresh longer. Um, in a process called hydrogenation. So it's a process in which a liquid unsaturated fat is turned into a solid fat by adding hydrogen. So during this manufactured partially hydrogenated processing, a type of fat called trans fat is made. Okay, so the idea for them is to, to pump this stuff with hydrogen, with hydrogenated oil, to help increase shelf life so it stays fresh longer, but then it also saved costs. So obviously it's a good thing in theory, but in the long run, it's bad for our health. So we don't want that. Okay. One more slide here, and then I will be done with the notes at least. So fatty foods are typically higher in calories, therefore overconsumption is dangerous. So um, that's saying that if we have two types of foods, and they have the same, or two different types of foods, and maybe they're the same size, and we don't know what either is, if we take a fat and it's the same size as, let's say, a protein, we're going to have more calories in that fat because fats are more dense within calories. So there's more calories in a smaller serving than maybe a protein in a bigger serving. Okay. So obviously overconsumption is dangerous, leading to overweight or obesity. They provide a concentrated form of energy that gets burned off very fast if we get there, but it doesn't last very long. Um, and calories from fats that are not used are stored as body fat. So you see people who are overweight, they're eating those fats and they end up not burning them off, and they get stored as body fat. Okay, and that's why it is important for people to find a good medium. Okay, if we go back and look at where we get our energy from, okay, our fats, our proteins, our carbs. Okay, we run through the carbs first, and then the proteins, and then the fats. So if we are active for long enough, yes, we can burn off fats, but a lot of times people will only burn off the carbs. So therefore, any fats that are consumed just get stored as body fat. Okay, and that's why fats are so dangerous. So I have them broken down here into different categories. Once again, you don't have to be responsible for these. Let's just look at some. So unsaturated, once again, are good fats. Avocado, nuts, olive oils. Our saturated fats are okay. So fatty beef, lamb, pork, butter, and cheese. And then our trans fats are cakes, biscuits, crackers, popcorn, donuts. Like we said, any kind of baked goods. Okay. So that is it for the notes for this week, or at least the beginning of this week for your Monday assignment. So the Poplet is going to cover proteins and fats. Okay. And yeah, that's really about it. So if you have questions on what needs to be on the Poplet, go ahead and shoot me an email. But for the most part, I think you have an understanding now of what I'm looking for. But if you don't, obviously feel free to shoot me an email. Okay, guys. I will see you next time.